Welcome back again to the People We Meet podcast. Last time we spoke with David Chamblee, and we have invited Karen to sit with us today and on this next video and kind of tell about her background and some of the things she's doing in the functional medicine world. So thank y'all again for joining us. So David and Karen.
Hey.
So we met Karen, of course, the same time we met David year and a half ago or so. So last time we, heard David's story, kind of, how he got into oxygen training. And, but we always like to hear, when we have couples on, we always like to hear the fun stuff too. So we love dating and marriage stories. So how did you guys meet?
We got a pretty,
a good one,
pretty entertaining one.
Okay.
So I'll start.
Okay.
So,
and then she'll correct you.
Right. She'll correct me. So, I thought I would try. I was, of course, working a lot, busy, and I said, well, everybody's online dating here. Let me try. So I joined online dating match.com, and I was there basically a month. And by the end of the month, I just said, yeah, this isn't for me. It's a lot of work. I mean, it really is. Like, you got to put a lot of time into it to like go through. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. And so she had sent me a message that last day when my thing was ending, like midnight. It was probably 5 or 6 hours before. And then we communicated, and I said, hey, I'm done, today, and I'm not getting back on. So we were able to get each other's number, and we started communicating that way. And then we started talking. We had a really good conversation. And then so I asked her, like, hey, do you want to go out maybe for the first time on Friday night? And she said, no, I don't do Friday nights. I watch Dateline. I was like, what? So she just basically said, no, I'm not doing Friday nights. I was like, what in the world? So wait, finally she agreed to a date, and we went to, I think, Starbucks and had coffee. I think we had about 10 Starbucks
about 8
dates. So then following all those Starbucks dates, we were supposed to meet again. And she said, I can't meet because I have to go and get new brakes today. And I said, well, I'll just meet you there, and then we can go, to coffee or whatever, and I can take you back when it's done. And then she said, no, I'm not doing that. I don't know you that well that we're doing that. And so again,
Her nose mean no. She's serious when she says no.
Yeah.
Friday nights for my nights. I work 312s at the hospital. My Friday night is the day I relax. It's my night.
So she made me work a little bit, but yes, that's our story.
Oh, that's great. And how many years ago was that?
Well, that was 2013 and
okay.
beginning of 13, and we married mid 14.
14.
Yeah.
Great.
So we, I guess, dated, engaged for like right at a year, just over a year.
I was 39 when I met him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you were 40 something?
44.
44.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So the first conversation we had on the phone, because, I'm not a texter. I'm old school.
Yeah.
And all these people that I met online, they wanted to text. I'm like, no, can't text. Let's talk on the phone. And thank God he wasn't like that. He was like, yeah, let's talk on the phone. So yeah, the first conversation we had, it was like about an hour. And I still remember it to this day. I was in my car driving, I think, to my mom's. Family was very important to him, and he had values, and he wasn't looking just to date around and, mess around and play around. He was looking for a serious relationship. And I was too. I was 39. I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And I was straightforward. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
But the big question.
Was that the first or second Starbucks date?
That was before.
That was on the phone call. Yes. I'm like, I'm not here to play around or mess around. I knew what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So.
And then she asked me the dog question. That was
an important question.
Yeah.
If I like dogs or not. Yeah.
Do you like dogs or kids? What came first? Did you like kids or do you like dogs?
I think dogs first.
Dogs came first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you already have dogs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had dogs. Yeah. If that was a no, I mean, that's like literally
And I grew up with lots of dogs. Well, so yeah, I was used to dogs. Yeah.
I like dogs.
So there's pros and cons to getting married young, and there's pros and cons to getting married when you're not 20. What are some of the good things about getting married a little more maturely? What would you say?
I'd say you probably know more what you want
Yeah.
You're a little more established in like in the direction you're going in. So I think that'd be a plus. You've kind of been out there and done a lot of the stuff. So I think less distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are probably the pluses.
And then you know what you want, exactly. Like you
You
said.
definitely know what you want and
Yep.
what you're looking for. But this is, I don't know if I had told you this, but I had put one of my friends suggested, because I had been through a divorce in the past, and she said, write just characteristics of what you want your husband to have, and she made me a guide box.
Oh.
So I put all those characteristics in, and I'll just close the box. And then when I met him, it took me a little bit to realize that he had all the characteristics.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so you've been married 12,
Just
12
11 years.
11 years, okay.
11 last month. Yeah.
And then you got your son and your dogs, so good, good. All right, so last time when we talked with David,
What's your son's name?
John David, JD.
JD. Okay. Okay.
JD. Yep.
And he's 9.
Had to throw JD in there. Can't keep him out.
Yeah.
JD3. Yep.
Yes.
I'm JD2.
oh, okay, so you are John David.
Mhm.
I just go by David.
I'm John
Okay.
David Jr. Yep.
Okay,
And he's the third.
okay.
Cool.
Yeah, my great-grandfather was John Robert Sr. and John Robert Jr. My dad was John Robert III, but they went by Bob, Jack, and Johnny. So we can all keep them straight.
Next is JR. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so last time, David, we talked with you about oxygen training and around the time period. So I think that was around 2016, 17 when you started learning more about it. And then Karen, you and I have talked before, and you were having some health issues at the same time. And you mentioned that, you do have a medical background. So I think you had tried just traditional medical treatments. So can you kind of tell us your story?
Yes. So I had always been healthy, worked out, did CrossFit, did a couple of marathons, and had JD in 2017. In 2018, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, which was attacking my liver. It's autoimmune hepatitis. And I thank God it was caught early. Went to go get my physical, my blood work, and my liver enzymes were just a little bit elevated. I think at that time they were like 50. And so they told me to follow up in a month. And so in another month, I got another blood work, and there were 300s. And so I knew that was pretty high. My doctor at that time, the nurse called me. My doctor was on vacation. So I called in healthcare. So I called the doctor that I work with, and he said, I need to get you in with a hepatologist. He connected me immediately, thank God, because by the time I think I went that same week, and my liver enzymes at that time were 1,400. So that's pretty alarming. Like that's
What time
alarming.
period was that? Maybe a month between the 300 and the...
Yeah, less than a month.
Wow.
So someone like me that don't know, what does that mean?
That there's something going on with your liver. Like there's inflammation in your liver. Something is making it could be your gallbladder or liver, increasing those liver enzymes. So he did not know what was going on. So he did a lot of tests. And one of the tests was a liver biopsy. The liver biopsy showed autoimmune hepatitis. So that's how he diagnosed me. And thank God that I got connected really, really, really quickly because usually when you see a specialist, it takes at least 3 months. And I got there that same week.
Wow.
So he put me on medication. I remember asking him, is there any other solution to this? Because I don't like taking medications, and unless you definitely need it. So it's like, no. I'm like, can I change my nutrition or anything? No, this is the only solution. And if not, your liver enzymes, will increase, and you can end up with liver cirrhosis, and you don't want that because then that can lead to liver transplant. So at that time, I was really scared because JD was 2 years old at that time. And so I took the medication for 2 years, and I had the side effects. It was like a chemo drug. It suppressed your immune system because it prevents your your liver cells, and in this case, attacking my own liver. So the medication worked because it suppressed my immune system. That my cells weren't attacking my liver. So, but after 2 years, I didn't have any energy. I had a lot of joint pain. I wasn't able to. I just had to hold on to the rail. I remember going up and down the stairs, um, and I had a lot of anxiety. And I remember just telling David, I guess this is how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life, and I have to be okay with it. And at that time, he had been working with the oxygen with the company, that the manufacturer, and he had been going to integrative, what do you call them?
Health conferences.
Health conferences, yes, conferences and functional health conferences, and was introduced to a lot of functional doctors, chiropractors who look at the entire body and who knew about autoimmune hepatitis and knew that they could fix it, that it could be fixed. And he would come home and tell me, "You can reverse that," and I'll be like, "No, you can't. No, you can't." And just because that's not what I'm taught, being in the medical field, and that's not what my doctors are telling me, that you can't reverse it. So he finally gave me a book to read, which is called Plant Paradox, Dr. Gundry, and I followed their nutrition. It's a 10-day nutrition plan for autoimmune disorders. And I made all my meals organically, and I prepared all my meals. And after 10 days, my inflammation was gone, my energy levels were up, my joint pain was gone, and I just felt back to my normal self.
Wow.
So I reached out to my hepatologist, and I still have the email. And I said, I changed some of my lifestyles, I changed my nutrition, and I feel like I don't need this medication anymore because I feel back to my normal self. And it's been years since I had felt like that. And he said, unfortunately, you're going to have to take this medication for the rest of your life. And that made me very depressed, like made me hopeless.
Yeah.
And so my other request was, could you at least reduce my dose? And he said, yes, I can do that. And he checked. He was really good. He checked my labs every month for like 5 months. And to the point where all my enzymes were normal. Everything was normal. I'm like, can you just take me off this medication, see what happens? So he told me that he would have to do a liver biopsy to see how much inflammation I had in my liver this time. And I said, let's do it. I was that confident. And we had the liver biopsy and no signs of autoimmune.
Wow.
So he took me off the medication.
Wow.
And he said, I haven't had this happen.
Wow.
So that made me a believer that, like, changing your lifestyle and just changing your nutrition and giving the body what it needs, that it will heal and fix itself.
It's funny because it's around the same time that I started to learn those things. So 2016 is when I started to go from traditional medicine to, well, and I think, it's as we age too, we're like, okay, I'm not feeling too good anymore. You're trying other things, but I had no idea the food I was putting in my body was affecting me so much. So it's interesting around the same time. So
yes, and the sugar.
The sugar.
You said it, sugar. Because I was having back issues to where I'd had steroid shots and different things like that. And I quit doing the sugar and it went away.
Yes.
I mean, the
inflammation, it just does so many problems in our body.
Well, and I guess that's my frustration. They don't tell you all those things. And the main thing it was the inflammation. I mean, I've got a cyst pushing on the nerve, but as I was doing the medication, different things like that, they never told me, inflammation, quit doing the sugar, and, like basically, change my diet. And when I changed my diet,
Yes. Inflammation is the root cause of just about everything. So a good book, and in Edo2 Performance and Recovery, we do a free hour of free education every month. And every month we discuss different topics because I think knowledge is power and gives people empowerment. And I didn't have this knowledge, 6 years ago?
Right.
I had to learn this and research and experience it on my own. And so our last one was insulin resistance, and we covered sugar. So our bodies can only required 1 teaspoon of
Can you
sugar
believe
a
that?
day, and the normal average person has 31 teaspoons a day.
And we don't want to talk about sweet tea.
And hey, we live in the South where cooking doesn't get better than Southern cooking. So
You
we
add sugar
have
to the collard greens. You add sugar to the
all
macaroni
that
and cheese.
stuff.
Yeah.
I know,
Everything.
so it can be challenging, but there's a lot of good. She found a lot of good recipes and
Yeah.
alternatives that actually are pretty good.
And when I started reading nutrition labels, I'd really never done that either. And if I ever did, it was, in the 90s when you're only looking at fat. You remember the low fat craze in the 90s? I would just say how much fat is in. I didn't care about the sugar. But when I started reading labels and I realized that American manufacturers don't even put teaspoons, they do everything in grams. Well, Americans, we don't read in grams. We don't understand what grams is. So there are 4 grams of sugar in 1 teaspoon. So then you're, oh my goodness, I'm in this 1 cup of yogurt, I'm getting 4 teaspoons because it's 16 grams of sugar. So they even try to trick you, with the
Right.
nutrition labels. They really try to minimize the amount of sugar. So
They do.
yeah, it's everywhere. It's in ragu spaghetti sauce. It's everywhere.
And the older you get, the more and more you realize it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in O2 PNR, what kind of, so you do the classes once a month, and then I know you're a coach. So what kind of coaching do you do on a one-to-one basis?
So all of this, just me being able to put my autoimmune in remission, I wanted to share with everyone because I did not know that you could do this, and everybody should know this.
Yeah.
And so it led me to get my integrative health practitioner coach certificate, so I can help others. And so we do nutrition, we do supplementation, we can actually also do blood work, order blood work through LabCorp. Just to get a baseline where you are and kind of monitor that. And then we also, another service that we offer is PMF. It's all about the cell. If your cells are not healthy, then it affects everything. It affects your organs.
Right.
It affects everything. So the cellular level is what we focus on because it's important. So we use PMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic field, and that just gives your cells the energy that it needs to the mitochondria to function. So it's able to absorb the nutrients and absorb the supplements, oxygen as well, so they can function.
So you use it
better.
in combination with oxygen training as
Yes,
well? Okay.
yes. We do.
And the best way to get in touch with you as well would be through the website to make any appointments or, okay. Very
OT
good.
Performance and Recovery. You can do a free consultation.
Great. And Antonio wanted to bring up last time we didn't delve into the history of oxygen training because we all, we're not familiar with IHHT yet in America. So it is around the world, though it's more prevalent. So what kind of questions did you want to ask, David? Or just explain the history?
Yeah, so a little bit about the history. As an example, I guess, probably about a year ago, I was doing some searching when AI first came out, or I became aware of it. I would put in IHHT and just really not much of anything came up. Well, if you put that same thing in today, you get all kinds of stuff that comes up on IHHT. So it's pretty new. Most people, especially here in the U.S., just don't know. Even people that are in the health industry, natural health, it's a pretty new technology, but it's actually been around. Probably 2010 or 11 was when it was first developed, and then it's kind of slowly gained traction in the athletic world, probably first, and then chronic issues and all that. But if you go back in time, really, EWOT, which is exercise with oxygen therapy, and basically that's just exercising while you breathe high amounts of oxygen, like 80% oxygen while you're working out. We do, of course, the low to create the demand and then bring the high in, which puts a lot more speed behind it and saturates the body a lot deeper with the oxygen. So that's the difference. But EWAT was first developed by a German by the name of Manfred von Arden, Ardenne. And so he did a lot of experimenting with first cancer. So he actually worked with a guy named Otto Warburg, who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1902 for proving that cancer has a hard time surviving in an oxygenated environment. So he teamed up with him. He was much younger than he was. And so they worked on a lot of what they called multi-step therapy for cancer. And this is, we're talking 1940s, 30s, 40s in that area, way back. And so von Arden was a very gifted scientist and had a lot of patents and developments. In fact, imaging, X-rays, he's the father of that, right? So he developed the technology that later became X-rays, and also a lot to do with end up being the television. So he was a pretty accomplished guy. So as he got older, of course, Hitler came in. Then we had World War II. World War II's over. And then the Soviets, of course, took him and sent him to Moscow to work on nuclear fission and some other things there because he was such a gifted scientist. Anyway, he came back to Germany. They told him he could only go to East Germany because it was part of the Soviet bloc. And so he did. He did a lot of research on the cancer at that point, and then got really sick and ill and bedridden. And he just had remembered that with the cancer therapy, that they used oxygen a lot to get the results that they got. Oxygen was really important, which was Warburg's theory. So he had asked for some of the oxygen canisters to bring it in, and he started taking hits of oxygen, of the high oxygen, while he was bedridden. And he started to recover, started to feel better. And within a very short time, he was back in the lab, and everybody was pretty amazed because he thought that he was probably going to die. So that really changed his thinking. So he's like, wow, so if that had that impact on me, why don't we start doing experiments on just oxygen and how that influences the body? So he did. So he and his research team, and remember, he was already a famous guy all over, and he really went to work and just did study after study over like 25 years, everything oxygen. He took seniors, and they would do experiments on skin, eye health, blood pressure, reaction time, cancer. They took a group of people that had recovered from cancer, and then they had them doing this EWAT, and then they had the other group, the control group, just living life. And over a period of time, when they retested, went back and saw the results, the people who had just lived their life, they came back at a rate of about 55%. And the people who were doing EWAT, it came back at 6%. So that was one of the significant studies in his book. And that book is called Multi-Step Oxygen Therapy, which, man, it's a really expensive book. It's hard to get, but it's out there. So von Arden, he had done all this research, of course, came out with the book Multi-Step Oxygen Therapy in 1987. And then he had convinced the government of East Germany that this was worthwhile and that all the citizens should be doing this. So, of course, being a communist government, when they saw his proposal and saw that, hey, that could really save us a lot of money and long-term medical costs, and we can buy more guns and tanks, basically was their thought. And so they started to plan these 400 centers around Germany that everybody over the age of like 55, I think it was going to have to do this 3 times a week. Like they're going to force them to do it. And the way he came up with that theory, or what he proved through all his research, is that whenever someone is young, like let's say they're 30, and they have a really deep energy reserve like this, they fall, they get sick, something happens, they use some energy, but they come back really quickly, no big deal. When you're 75 or 80, the energy reserve like this, and you fall, you have a break, same thing, then you use pretty much all that energy, which means sometimes you just don't recover, you're never the same. So in his theory, in his research, he proved that over a little bit of time, if you're doing these sessions, what happens is it starts to build your energy reserve back up. And what he predicted, it was about 15 to 17 years internally that you could take an older person and that had this much energy and take it back up to here, which basically strengthened your immune system and allowed you to go through a lot more things in life and sickness and illness and be able to recover and bounce back and have a better quality of life longer. And from that, that's where we're going to build those 400 centers. But 1989, 90, right there, what happened? The Berlin Wall fell. And when the wall fell, East Germany and West Germany reunited. Of course, at the time, West Germany, they were probably the leading pharmaceutical company in the world. You've got Bayer Pharmaceuticals, which was huge back then, and there's some others that have spun off from that as well. And so when they saw those plans, of course, they were like, that's not happening. And that was kind of, pushed under the rug, and the book sort of went underground and nothing ever happened. But EWAT did survive, and EWAT existed throughout Europe in different places here and there in pockets. And then really as you get into 2000, early 2000, it started to gain traction again. And so the IHHT was actually derived from EWAT. But as you know, as we talked about IHHT, much more powerful because you're creating that demand and then bringing the high oxygen in, which is pushing the oxygen a lot deeper all over the body. So it's kind of EWAT on steroids, if you will. And then in terms of other countries, the Russians actually did a lot back, especially in the Olympics, in the Soviet bloc when they were so dominant. They were doing a lot of experimentation with what we now call buteyko breathing and using oxygen and lowered levels of oxygen and hypoxia to do a lot of experiments. So a lot of the studies now, when you see IHHT, not much of anything in the U.S., but coming out of Germany and Russia mainly. So when you look at all the journals and the studies, they're out there. They're
Ukraine too.
Ukraine and some in like Korea, China. But so a lot of those things are being used or starting to be used in different parts of the world. They just aren't here yet, but it's coming. It's coming soon with athletic performance and recovery. And we're seeing that with some of our guys we run into. They're starting to hear a little bit about it and starting to practice some of the techniques. But really their coaches don't really know much about it or talk about it. And then also with health and wellness, the same thing.
And so one thing I would say, touch on empty lung breath holds and just doing breathing techniques.
Yeah, so we're certified in Oxygen Advantage as well, so breathing. So we're gonna implement the breathing techniques with the sessions, right? So when you get one, you're getting both. And really the breathing techniques are really important because we want to teach people how to breathe properly and breathe mainly through the nose, in and out. And we want to, if you can maintain a balance of oxygen and CO2, you're going to get really good oxygen delivery that's going to go from the red blood cell and the hemoglobin to the tissue, almost a complete delivery. When you breathe through your mouth, CO2 is going to lower, and now you're going to have a lot more oxygen than CO2. Now you're not going to get great delivery. The delivery is going to go down about 20-25%, and now you're getting a partial delivery of oxygen to the tissue. So it's important to keep that CO2 level up equal to the oxygen, and really the only way to do that is through nasal breathing. And so that's really important. So we really focus on that as people get into sessions. We kind of don't give them an option after a few sessions. We're like, look, we're doing nose. And sometimes it takes a while, but everybody ends up getting it nose only. And then a lot of times we hear a month or two later that it just kicks in out there in real life, where now they do it so much and we create that muscle memory that our athletes and just people in general say, hey man, I'm breathing through my nose now, like all the time. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. I'm not even thinking about it now. So that's kind of one of our goals too, because that nasal breathing is going to give people throughout the day and night, it's going to give them that proper oxygen delivery to the tissues. And so whether you're an athlete and you're doing it during a game or practice, and if you consistently do it as you get to the end of the game, you're just going to have better recovery, more oxygen to the tissue. And the same thing with working, stress, anxiety, those types of things. It's going to make a difference if you're breathing the right way. So we're really big on that.
And so when you, with the breathing and different things like that, we've evolved in such a way. What would be one of the companies now that you would say that's really evolve with the technology?
Yeah, so the when you talk about IHHT and what we're doing, like who makes these, right? Like where can you get one, that type of thing. Well, a company called Airo, AIRO, and just full disclosure, the guy who started Airo. He's a very good friend of mine, and we worked together previously, and he was the engineer for the technology. So and I have a lot of involvement with Airo as well. So yeah, Airo's the one, really the only one that does it at the level they do it. There's another company that does it, that does a manual version, but it's been around for a while, which I mentioned before. But Airo does it, has an app, and records data and the whole bit, and really being involved in sports performance at a high level. One of the top sports performance coaches in America is involved with it as well. So his view is that this technology is so impactful that all the professional and major college sports teams will have this technology in the next few years.
What's his name?
His name is Cal Dietz,
Okay.
Dietz, of the University of
He
Minnesota.
just wrote a book and he discusses IHHT.
Okay.
He's using it at the University of Minnesota.
Yep. So yeah, that's Airo.com, AIRO.com. They're the ones now that are really doing it at that level.
Okay.
They're the ones who make the systems that you're using now.
Yes, that's what we use our studio. The system we use is an Airo system.
Okay.
And I think you mentioned Cal Dietz is the one D1 school that's actually using this system.
Yeah, University of Minnesota, they have a system there, like a full-on system for all their athletes. They're the first ones to do it, and we've, as we've have a couple of other teams now. The professional athletes, we've got several of those now. We mentioned NFL, NBA, with the Bucks and the Cardinals, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and then some NHL, lots of different NHL players, and a couple of teams with the Blackhawks, and the Jets are now getting it as well. But yeah, so the pros have been easier. It's the college is tough to get into, just because it's the pros can go and do it on their own, and then introduce it to the teams and all that. Whereas college, you got to go through the people who run the show, and so it's getting there. It's just they have to hear about it a little bit more and get more of the studies, and all the studies are new. They're just coming out, so it's just a matter of time.
You've had a couple of singers as well, right?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite trainings I've ever done was I had to go to New York City, and the assistant for the band Foreigner, the guy who founded the group, Mick Jones, and wrote most of their songs, was having some health issues, and so I got to go up there and spend the day with them and train him and the assistant on how to use it for him. And that was a thrill, because we were in his studio with all these gold records, and like Foreigner 4, which had like all those hit songs I grew up on, like it was right there, and I'm talking to the guy that like wrote all those songs. I was just kind of like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool.
And one last, you just went to New York, and tell us about that one.
Yeah, New York. I had to go up there and train. This was last weekend. A lady, she's like a skin doctor, and Dr. Denise, and she has like a lot of skin products and all that kind of stuff, and Good Morning America and all these different things. So she had heard about it. She's actually a doctor as well, and so she had read in a book about Lyme disease how IHHT was a new emerging technology that was effective for Lyme disease. So she had done some searching, and of course, I'm one of the few people that comes up at IHT, because there's not a lot of people that do it yet. So she reached out to me from doing a search, and found a video that I had done, and contacted me, and then went up and she bought the technology, and then I went up and trained her. And then I have to go back up there in a few weeks to train one of her patients who's having some of those issues and getting the technology. Yep.
I got her confused with another client that just came in this weekend.
Another client. Which one?
Oh.
This weekend.
Car wreck.
The concussion lady.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a college track coach who had came and did a session, and she had a brain injury in 2013, a car accident. And first time she's ever done a session, and first time she'd ever heard of the technology. A colleague of mine was with her and was telling her about it, and she'd never heard of it. So they came over to the studio and did a session, and we went through it. Pretty tough for one session. She wanted to push the limits, and we did, because she was going to be here for one day basically. So we pushed the limits on it. We definitely don't do that with everybody, or only if people want to do that, and we have to get their permission. But we went really hard with her, and yeah, I checked in with her this morning, and she's feeling great and getting some feeling and resolution on the left side of her body she hasn't had in a while.
Okay.
So yeah.
Nice.
After one session.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
Those
And-
blood vessels are popping back open.
And
So
one
what's
thing I
happening?
would like to say is, me personally, I just went and did a checkup and wound up that I had prostate cancer. And then Karen, you were talking about doing some checkups, and all that came about. And so if you have not gone to the doctor lately and just did a simple checkup, blood work, you need to go do it, because you never know what's going on with your body and different things like that. And, it's really important. And so,
And then give Antonio, David, and Karen a call.
yes.
There's a lot of stuff out there trying to get us these days. So yeah, air we breathe, food we eat, exposure,
A
and
lot of toxins.
a lot of stuff out there. So
It's
yeah,
too much for our bodies to handle.
get it checked out.
And the other thing is, when you think about the age difference as far as clients, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of different. We got some elite athletes who do it at a high level. But the beauty about this technology is that within an hour's time, I can take the very same technology, same machine. I can have an 89-year-old that can hardly walk, and I can put them through a session and challenge them, or challenge them in a way that's appropriate for them. And then you could bring a high-level athlete in there, and we can challenge them to a really high degree with the same technology.
And so you don't necessarily have to be exercising. You got different ways of.
Yeah, people who can't exercise, whether it's an injury or whether it's, age-related illness, chronic illness. We can sit in a chair just like this and do it if we need to. We can do exposure, which is without movement, and use breathing techniques to help those people.
Okay.
And then of course we can really go to town on the working out too, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, when I have someone that comes in who's really chronic and they really have a pretty serious condition, then my first thought is, man, they really need low oxygen. And I know that's kind of a backwards thought, but you got to remember that they need oxygen deep in the tissue. And how are we going to get it there? Breathing oxygen is not going to do it. They'll get it in the body, but it's not going to drive it anywhere. It's just going to get the low-hanging fruit. But the only way that we can really drive the oxygen and get it deep, which what those people need, is by creating the demand on low and then bringing in the high. So
I like the analogy of the vacuum that you use. That really makes sense. You're decreasing to cause that vacuum to happen where it pulls in the oxygen. So that's a good analogy.
8 years, going on 9, nobody's ever passed out doing this. Nobody's ever died on me. Knock on wood. And so people are like, man, low oxygen, but yeah, it's very safe.
It's safe. Now, when we first started, the studies weren't out there yet, but now it's safe. You can research it, you can read about it, and it says it's completely safe for everyone to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a lot better than a lot of other systems out there, and works a lot faster.
Right. It's just well, first thing, it's adjustable, right? You can take it down to lower levels. It's not a fixed. You don't fix it at 14%. It's 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So you can base it on whether you got a high level athlete or somebody who's older, on fixing the adjustment on it, on the oxygen level. And the other thing, the data, it's Apple or Android. You can use it on Apple Android on your phone, pull the app up, or iPad or whatever, and it's all right there in front of you. You push the button for low, push the button for high, tracks all your times, and they're going to be adding a lot more data technology to it as we go on, as they update the app in the next 6 months to a year to 2 years. So there'll be a lot of good stuff on there. Yeah.
And how do we reach you again?
You can reach me either David or info at o2pandr.com. And then I think of the website, we'll have the phone number and all too on there.
You can give the phone number, 404.
Yeah, 404-759-6604.
One more time.
404-759-6604.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you out there need to give us a call and just come in and do one free session. Check it out.
Yay.
Come on in.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you again for coming. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you,
for
thank
having
you.
us.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you guys.
Yes.